We are approaching the last, almost the end of this 3-day journey, which is, we sense it's just the beginning. For me, definitely, like the more we get into this, the more I sense this is only starting. And I feel like, okay, in this session, we're definitely only starting, because we have to have our next meeting on 21st of November together. We're going to talk about it. This should be an intergenerational dialogue. I wrote and underlined with many lines that next Evolutionary Renaissance Forum should happen as a co-creation with younger generations. It should be organized. It should be, like it was said by one of the groups, getting to the game and play it together. That's what we are doing. And now we are getting into a very interesting game of what I would call a consciousness shift. And that consciousness shift we have been discussing for the last 3 days, which is about recognizing that so much of the world is dominated by the masculine perspective. And it's not just the masculine perspective that is embodied in men, but I guess it's embodied in everyone. And now we are discovering collectively what is the feminine perspective. And again, not only embodied in women, but embodied in everyone. And one of the things that came up strongly in previous days is this connection to inner beauty and the sense of beauty as our guide. And I would like to welcome the holders of this space. And by the way, I want to say that one of these holders is also, I'm privileged that this holder is also my wife and my dear partner, lifetime partner, Katerina, Katerina has actually been very actively weaving all these 3 days, conversing with every speaker, every session holder, because this is an act of co-creation. And I would like to say that Katerina is the master of co-creation. And thank you for being in the space together with me. So Katerina will co-host this session with Anne-Marie Voorhoeve. And welcome to you, and over to you, Anne-Marie and Katerina.
Thank you, Pavel. Thank you all for what an amazing time, Katerina. You've been on this all the time, and I've been here the whole day. So really very inspiring. And we're going to be in I asked Katerina, what is your dream for us to be doing in this session, when she was asking me to facilitate, and I said co-facilitate, and she wanted to have a gentle conversation. And so that's what we are inviting all of us into. And having had all this this interesting sense of exploration, of looking at what we are wanting and seeing to emerge, and how we're leaning into that, and then this last part also intergenerationally, I'm longing for that too myself, Katerina. And I hand over to you for a minute, and then we'll start with the bell, because we decided we would start with some silence.
Yes, and I am very glad to see all of us from my heart. And before your perfect voice calling us, Anne-Marie, I ask each of us to connect with the inner sound of Mother Earth, of big energy, and energy of circle of life. Because only that sound brings us in clear and sincere and pure space for human and living being, to intergenerational dialogue, intergenerational dialogue, and interspecies dialogue. So let's open big heart of us and try to hear the sounds, and then we go to discuss together.
I'll do it 3 times. and I am ringing the bell from Vreeland, Peaceland in the Netherlands. Thank you. And we're going to be in conversation, in flow, with some women, with Jan, Alessandra, Zineb, Victoria, Katarina, and myself. And Yanina has had to excuse herself because of her bad connectivity. We will hold her in my heart. My dog is saying hi to her. And we would like to start. I would like to start with a little round that each of us say our name, the place where we are now at this moment, in one or two sentences about what you feel is important for everyone to know about ourselves here and to get ourselves grounded. And what emotion is alive in you now before we go more into the topic. And we'll do it popcorn style. So whoever feels from this little group, I would love all of us actually to have been able to do that, but we won't because of the size of the time. So just, but you could do it in the chat if you want. So let's do it popcorn style. So whoever wants to start. And I'll just start to kind of like show what we meant by that, to remind ourselves. So I am Annemarie in Vreeland, the Netherlands. I love to co-create a world that works for all life forms, visible and invisible, led by the heart, as I feel we were born for love. And I am curious.
I'm Jan Hurwitch, based in Costa Rica with the Visionary Ethics Foundation. I confirm what Anne-Marie just said, and that we have strong bridges interculturally, intergenerationally. I'm happy to be here with you, and my word is connected.
Thank you.
I'm Alessandra Marazzi. I'm in Switzerland right now, among the Alps. My process is a process of connecting how to be in gentler, kinder conversations, how to be together differently. And the emotion that is present for me right now, above all the others, is gratefulness.
Hello, my name is Victoria. I live in Geneva, but I'm from Kazakhstan. I work with women and I help women create their own businesses. So for me, when women are empowered, it very positively impacts families, communities, economies, and it's contributing to a brighter and more prosperous future for everyone. And I'm very grateful, Katerina, for inviting It's amazing space, and my association with this event, for me, it's soul balance between new knowledge and between all energy which I feel inside this space, online space, despite on online space. Yes, thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zineb. I'm from Morocco, but I'm currently based in Berkeley in California, which are Ohlone territories. And I think I'm entering this session very much with this also curious mindset of wanting to explore what does it actually take to birth a new world into being, and at the same time holding the question that how do we accompany the death of an old way of being in a way that is done with love and kindness and grace, acknowledging what we've gotten out of the old way and accompanying a graceful death so that something else can be born.
Thank you, Zineb. My name is Katerina. I have a Russian-Ukrainian roots, and now I live in Serbia with my husband and our family. I feel that the woman power is much more necessary now to go to the next step of our world. And it looks like we are all in a big labor of future nature. And this is an amazing process. And the main point for me and my exploration theme is how to be the part of the big process of labor of new world, and how to be strong and gentle, kind and brave at the same time, how to connect different role and position of women in this world. And my word is heartly communication.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow, we had already so many things coming up. And I guess one of the things that we spoke about when we were preparing was how can we stand whole as women in our unique ways, inviting all parts of ourselves and of the other there, and put love in embodied action. In whatever way we want to speak about that. I name it love, but there are many ways of expressing that. And if we're rooted in this sense of interconnectedness and interrelatedness, or in the unitive narrative, as some of us call it, where we are really embodying the unitive values and ethical behaviors, and that we can practice and give ourselves full permission, and be radically accountable to really be part of the design and experience of a peaceful world, and of this university for the planet that is wanting to be birthed here through this beautiful initiative. What would make our hearts sing? And it's a question actually for all of us. And I would like to invite the ladies that are here with me in the panel to first answer, but it's really a question for all of us. And please, popcorn style, whoever wants to share.
I can take it from here. I like the way you phrased the beginning of this question. What would allow us to stand whole and integrate all the parts of us? And in a world where we often talk about the complexity around us, we sometimes, I think, we forget the complexity we are as human systems and all those parts. Reflecting through my experience, about what has helped me to stand whole. I think it's earth. I think it's the soil. I think what I mean by that, I also mean the community, the village, the circle, when the feminine essence for me is water, is flowing. And what does water need to be able to flow? Water needs earth to be its vessel. And so that's where I would like to start. From there, we need the soil to hold our feet. And that soil, in my experience, is especially nature, but is also people and community and relationships and really that circle that has been named in the previous sessions.
Thank you.
I like that reference to the water, because I think that water teaches us not only to flow, but the duality of strength and flow. So in my 75 years, I've learned there's some things we just have to let go and not get involved with them. It's not worth our energy. And other things require our strength and our power. And in the Tao Te Ching, there's a beautiful reference to water. I read it about once a week.
Can I say okay?
Yes.
For me, as I said before, I work with business women, and through my programs for these 4 years, more than 2,000 women have gone through my programs, and more than half of whom have created their own business. And I understand now that in order for women to remain whole, it's very, very important to realize themselves not only as a mother, or not only as a wife, or private or a person, necessary to have everything. Why I said about balance? Because I understand and I see such women who have only career or only family and children. They are unhappy. So I'm for balance in every part of our life, to be mother, to be daughter, to be wife, to be a professional person, and of course develop soul knowledge too. So for me, only in such way women can be totally full and feel themselves whole. Yes.
Yeah, what's coming up for me at the moment is almost this notion that we need to rethink what work means from a feminist perspective. And I think if we were to actually look at what does it mean, what would labor mean if it was looked from a feminist perspective, by looking at the work of mothers and the work of farmers and the work of craftsmen. Yeah. What we miss is this very sensual way of interacting with the world, and also an orientation towards the production and the nurturing of life. And I think that's a key thing that's missing in the way things are currently done. Is life is not what we're trying to put forward. Most of the work that's being done in the world right now is not towards the production and nurturing of life. And the production of nurturing of life is not actually valued in many ways. And it also makes me think, like in many ways, I also acknowledge that whether it is being a mother or a craftsman or a farmer, those are not, easy jobs. Like So I think, you know, like a masculine perspective of labor sees a division between working and resting, or working and entertainment. And whereas the feminist perspective of labor would acknowledge that our life is the work, and that every moment can be both, you know, like something that makes us work towards something we love, and also energy taking. I sometimes, you know, like get almost like frustrated with this notion that the things that we take energy from, or the things that takes energy from us, are different. I think if we look at the work of mothers again, we see that they're sometimes the same thing. It's a labor of love, and it's also labor. And so that also means that it needs to be recognized. So I think what would make my heart sing is really recognizing that the production of life, and as the goal of work, is something that we can be recognized for every step of the way, and valued for. Unfortunately, right now, it's a monetary perspective that we are still in. And so hopefully value would mean something else. But at the moment, it's also recognizing that most of women's work goes unrecognized and unvalued. And so I would love to see every woman that puts so much care in everything that they do in the relationships in their lives actually being valued for that too. Today, not in a, I would like to see that in my lifetime.
It would be wonderful. It would be wonderful. I'm also, again, bringing back my experience of it. It's also your sharing, Zineb, brings up for me, how do I recognize and value my work in all these areas, in all these, you know, when the giving and receiving become one, is difficult to recognize the value based on the structures of the world around us, and it starts also with me, with recognizing my value in first place, and how life flows through me.
Thank you, Alessandra, and thank you, Zineb, and others amazing women. So I feel in my inner me about the word of feminine whole perspective. The word is balance. Balance of breathe in and breathe out. Balance of emptiness and full. Balance of different energies of nature. I feel that's the radicals. It's not a feminine ways. It's maybe masculine ways or other ways. I don't know. I don't want to describe that. But I feel that if I connection it with my inner essence, with my energy, I always try to find a balance. And what we need to learn, like a feminine perspective, at how to be in balance with difference, with diversity in each moment. And sometimes to stop talk and stop expect, and be with the empty places, to bring life in that. Not be so fast, be slowly. No be so radical, be patient. No be so, everything is, if we want to be alive, sometimes we need to be stopped and be with death. And like a water, like Alessandra and Jan told us, so to be a water, just flow, just go away. And this is very important skill for this century and the next, how to go away and bring in you, how to celebrate the death and bring the new life. And the next question we want to discuss, and what the maybe necessary skills or values or knowledges from the feminine essence, from the feminine wholeness, we need to bring to the learning system and maybe management and our culture, to become a window, to become a place where new world can come.
So I would like to share a story. I'm connected to the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, which is based in Costa Rica and very close to my house. And I can go to the public hearings where I have gone for many years, and now I see them virtually. And in the public hearings on human rights, we see the worst of humanity and the best of humanity. But it all depends on us, on how we look at it, the lens that we bring in. If we go into a hearing and only hear the terrible violations of human rights that are being discussed in these public audiences, we get a very negative, horrific picture. But if we study the judges and the way they relate to everybody in the chamber, the level of respect, and then women judges started coming in. They weren't included before. And I could see a difference over the years. When the women judges came in, there were more questions about family and children and domestic abuse and this sort of thing. So I think it's nice to be able, in having balance in our lives, to not only see all the pain and violence, but to also honor the people and the institutions and the groups that are moving us forward as we evolve our consciousness.
I'd like to bring a slightly different perspective, as the word balance, I'm noticing, triggers me. I find that in my experience, balance has been that elusive goal and reality that I was asked to reproduce, and I was never very good at it. And I notice where I come alive is when I become spacious, when I allow all the parts of me to live through me. And sometimes there's a space for anger, and sometimes there's a space for gentleness, and sometimes there's a space for rage, and sometimes there's a space for acceptance. I find that's the feminine working through me. When I look at the archetypes of the feminine, they're strong. I think, Jan, you were mentioning it before at the beginning, right? The fierceness of Kali and the gracefulness of a mother. And the feminine is a process, is not a thing. Mm-hmm. And how can we be in that process and become and let it carve us more and more vessels, wider and wider vessels inside of us, so that it can express itself more deeply into the world.
Lovely said.
Yes, very beautiful. I very much like how you express it as the process, and how, for myself, I've noticed that once I've seen it as a process of that in any moment we can make a choice, whether we are staying in the not knowing, whether we're moving towards something that we do want to share, where we want to be more precise, and then where we can come back into holding the space. And in the practicing of that, I myself really thrive by doing it in a duo. So a duo facilitation, in which, so that in the moments where I might not be so easily able to smoothly move into the one or the other, there's somebody else that is close to me, that is sensing me, and I am sensing the other, and we together are holding the space so that we can then also dance together. And so one of the things I think is really important in these times is to acknowledge that it is I would say, inhumane to ask one person to lead such complex things that we're doing. So if I'm looking at leadership, if I'm looking at responsibility as well, if we just split that word up for a moment, that is, we are people that want to connect. So why don't we do these kind of things also together and not just by one person? So for me, that duo facilitation or co-convening is at the heart of the way that we work at the Hague Center, so that we can really do this dance and serve and be servant leaders when we're hosting groups to come into some kind of realization what we can be doing to solve complex problems.
Yes, and going back to the water, here's a secret. Sometimes when we don't react, it's not that we don't know, it's not that we don't care, it's that we're just flowing with the water because it's not worth it right now. Because we're in a process of integration and we have to choose how we use our energy. Plus, we usually have something cooking on the stove that we want to be sure doesn't burn right now. So sometimes I think we get misinterpreted that we agree or that we don't know. But maybe it's just that we're not going to put the energy into that right now.
Timing. So that's about timing, yes.
Timing. Yeah.
I think the piece of the process that I'm hearing also in the, in the co-facilitating and in the water is this notion of giving and receiving, that actually there's a reciprocal relationship at play in the feminist perspective or in the feminine. It's a process of building relationship through reciprocity between parts. And I think I just would like to kind of create almost that dichotomy with what exists today and make that clear, because I think often we talk about divisions, but we fail to see that those divisions are creating a relationship where a side gains at the expense of the other side. So we have like development at the expense of underdevelopment. We have men at the expense of women. And that division, or like same, we have the mind that takes over the body. So it's a relationship that is not just dividing, it's a relationship that's actually taking so that one can have more power over the other. And so moving from this type of division to a reciprocal relationship between the different parts actually also means finding a way that that loss of balance almost that we have, because we've given preference of one side over the other, is actually repaired by building reciprocal relationship.
I'd like to ask Victoria to say something about that as well, because I think she's really expressing.
Yeah, Victoria now is go away because her father now in the hospital.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear.
Yes, and she going to support him, and she asked me to say you thanks, and she felt very supportive with you by you now, because she needs our energy to be with her father now.
Oh, okay. So when we close, I would love us to take a minute to send out love and light to all that need that, her father and many other around the world. And maybe we will do just now at this moment. Let's just take a minute. I'll ring the bell and then I'll ring the bell again and then we can continue. So let's just send out, hold the space for all the suffering and the healing that is in the world.
May I just say that this for me was an experience of the feminine. The feminine making space for life happening and holding it in compassion. That was the experience.
I was in the mountains. I'll come with you in a moment, Ila. In the mountains with my husband walking, and there was this lake, and I was pondering about, what am I doing? Does it make a difference? Well, the usual half-year reflection I do on my work. And I threw a little stone into the lake, and I saw the, like you see then the ripple effects, and then it came very peaceful. And I was sitting there saying, it's just going out a small path. And then my husband at a certain point said, look up. And I looked up and I saw that after that very peaceful, like a mirror the water had become after the ripples, I saw ripples continuing. And I hadn't realized that whilst I thought the effect was finished, beyond that, there were so many more ripples going. And then he invited me to walk up the little mountain and look back in the lake, and the lake was in the shape of a heart. So it was so heartwarming. So you've just brought that back to me. Thank you, Alessandra. And Ila, please go ahead. What would you like to say?
Absolutely nothing.
I don't want us to close the session without giving thanks for this event, which has been beautiful. Thanks to Pavel and Alexander and so many people who worked so hard to make it happen. We're designing our next course, our next virtual course, and there will be some things that I've learned here that we will pass on in Spanish in our next course. So we're very much in tuned and aligned and very grateful.
Yes, thank you, Jan. And let's do a little checkout round from the people that were here in the sharing in the panel being held by all of you. And the rest can do it in the chat if they want. Go ahead, Katarina.
Yes, maybe Zineb, you want to say something, or I can and finish. Okay. Now I feel that I want to share the little story about the great lesson of this year for me. It's about how to see inner beauty in others, especially in other women. And I think it's the authentic feminine energy to stop conquer and to stop compete and to connect and to see in the heart moment the beauty and the wholeness of others, especially in other women. And what we need to learn like a humanity for the next years, and this is how to see a beauty of all living beings. I think it's one of the most feminine perspective. And this is the most feminine sense, to see the beauty of birth, to see beauty of living beings. And sometimes it's very hard because ego is so huge and you want to be a leader, a perfect leader, especially if you understand that you really can do amazing things, but you need to flow and run away from that and be a part of the big nature. It was a hard lesson for me, but now I feel that I'm more wholeless than previous. I'm more woman and I'm more nature inside. And that's my call to action for learning system and decision-making system and ecosystem. Let's start to see beauty inside of us and outside of us.
Thank you. Zineb, would you like to?
Thank you. Yeah, first I want to start with gratitude for the space. I really felt, as Alessandra was saying, that the content and the form actually matched. We're talking about the feminist perspective and holding the space in a feminine way. So that was beautiful to be in. And there's just one thing that feels like for me still needs to be said, and to me it's absolutely fundamental that we understand in what ways and how has patriarchy and toxic patriarchy function on us. What are the levers and the tools that these systems are using in order to control and limit the feminine energy in this world? I think that until we actually have made those systems transparent and understood them, we're going to have a hard time moving past them. So I think it's extremely important for us to call that and to look at our historical perspective and really understand how have we gotten to where we're at in order to feel liberated from the weight of that past. And also needing to mention, until all women have full autonomy of their bodies, until that landscape has been decolonized, we cannot yet fully liberate the feminine perspective. So it's what felt like still needed to be said. And I appreciate everyone on this call and having had the privilege of sharing in this space. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to share again my gratitude. I'd like to share that I started when I was invited to. I started from what is the feminine. Where I'm landing right now is with the question, where is the feminine? And I feel it is in beauty, in water, in movement between dualities and polarities that often create violence. I feel it is in this kind of conversation. I also hold the question of if it's not something to know, can it be something to remember and to feel? And tonight we co-created, for me at least, an experience of how the feminine feels. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. A sense of belonging. That is what I wish that we could bring, and that is the practice, I think, and that we can indeed remember again and again, sense of belonging, a sense of co-creating, and knowing that we've gone so far away from it that we need to connect to each other and come together in community like this is created. And I saw my dear friend Sister Eshna here, who also is longing to connect many women together. I think we can just do as many as we want, the circles together, and invite the women practicing, men practicing, we're all in it together. And there's something about the beauty of having these concentric circles and spirals and being in the presence of so many heartwarming men that really acknowledge and give space and have that presence and have the support and have the patience also to hold the space for us. That's how I would like to end, to thank you for that, gentlemen, that have been holding us and bringing us here together, because that's how I've experienced you in so many times and years now. And let's call for all of us also as women to stay with it and to really keep coming to the design and the practice and the manifestation of this beautiful initiative of the University for the Planet. Thank you for being here with us. And Katerina, thank you so much for inviting me.
I saw you breathe out, Pavel. I feel it.
It has been such a privilege to witness it. Thank you. And I have, well, while I was contemplating it, with really felt a lot of grace within and of the sense of present. And I am thinking of this idea of eternal feminine that was brought by Goethe 2 centuries ago. I just will read, because I think this is something that needs to be said. Here is his words. Everything transient is but a symbol. The insufficient here finds fulfillment. The indescribable here becomes deed. The eternal feminine draws us on high. So that eternal feminine for me is more than just, let's say, female or male division. It's that sacred space that gives birth. And we started the forum 2 days ago by calling upon Mother Earth and remembering that we intuitively feels that it's she, it's Mother, it's that energy. And we are here, if we say we are exploring and connecting with the dream of the earth, we are inviting that eternal feminine to, as I have said, draw us on high. So thank you for this beautiful experience.